Hello, folks. Happy Sunday. It is Sharla Kornegay coming live to you guys with another Forever Friends Academy episode. I am the author, recording artist, creative interest coaching, and Forever Friends Academy, which is my subscription-based membership where I do private group coaching. Welcome to another episode. Hello, Danya Enterprises right at the tippity top, and Queen Charlene. How are you guys doing? Definitely, if there are any newcomers, I'm so happy to see you. I think maybe Queen Charlene might be a new here. So thank you. This is my show, Forever Friends Academy, where we talk about all relationship topics. My main aim is to provide people with fundamental principles that they can build and develop their relationships on, so that when they go through the different changes and transformations that their relationships will take, they can, say, I remember going to that show and where I learned this principle and I can apply it here and there. I do believe that when it comes to our relationships, it's not that different from when you look out in other areas of the world, whether it's us going through our education and schooling, or whether you're learning to be expertise or a trade or a skill, that there are building blocks and stepping stones that you have to go through to be able to build a strong foundation, to be able to do what it is that you do. I don't think that is any different when it comes to relationships. I know many people say all relationships are different, which is true. You have to do what works for you. Very true. However, that does not mean that there are not certain fundamental principles and truths and principles in life that across the board, that if we apply and keep with us through us navigating through this life, that we can't use those tools. Now, will it come up the same way for all of us? Absolutely not, right? But we know, right? There are things that we know that we all have to kind of, bridges that we have to cross and things that we have to utilize that will help us to create the most optimal experiences. So that's what we talk about here on this episode. So if you found me, I so appreciate you. I always say your time, your energy, your faith are the strongest and most precious currencies that you can have in this lifetime. So if you chose to pop in for a minute, a second, stay with me through the whole show, I so appreciate you. And I hope that you can get something that could inspire you, motivate you, and most definitely motivate you to believe in love again and feel that you can, not more than feel, know that developing a relationship that can last a lifetime, it is not something that is no longer we're able to do. That you can still have it in this modern culture, modern day and age. So those are the things we talk about. So welcome. If you want to check out any of my music, because I am also a musical artist. On stage, I go by Sharla K. Definitely go to any of your music platforms and check my music out. I am super duper excited. I know many of the people who have listened to my music before and notice what I've been doing for these past few years. I have released, always release a few songs each year. I know you guys are probably like, it's the last quarter, Charlotte. We haven't gotten any new music from you. Do not be dismayed. Trust me, I am getting all my ducks in a row and working on getting new music to you. I have not just said this is just a coaching year or a live podcasting year. I'm definitely bringing the music to you guys. So, and of course, right on cue, right? I see you, Eric. He likes sing. I'm working on that too, all right? Not tonight, though. But I promise you, I am working on new music. So let me say hi to Ajax. How are you? Happy to have you back, Ajax, because you always come with the most greatest insights and you always make the conversation really nice. So I appreciate all of you guys who are in the building. So let's get into it. Any of my regulars. Oh, before I get into it, if you are, wherever you are watching from, be sure, if you like anything that you hear, if you feel like this could be applicable to so many other people who you feel like we are in a deficit of rich content that has meaning and value that you can actually use for your life, definitely go by my YouTube channel, Forever Friends Academy. It is free to do this. And it would help me a lot, and it would help to distribute the content that I create. Forever Friends Academy on YouTube. That's where all the live episodes are from beginning to end. You'll definitely know when I come on, usually Thursdays and Sunday evenings at 8 p.m. and Eastern Standard Time. So definitely do that. Subscribe, like, comment, so that you can get, when I'm coming on, and spread the news to people who want to hear it. It only gets better. How are you? All right, so let's get into it. So Sunday, Relationship Sunday scenarios. Tonight, I'm presenting a scenario to you guys, but you all know I usually start with a quote and a question. And I'm so happy I see some men in the building because I really want to know what your thoughts are on this. All right, so the quote of the evening is, "A man should be led and lead through his reverent fear of God and his moral conviction, and not be swayed by the emotions of a woman." So let me say it again. Let me say it again, especially since I have some men in here. I really would like to know what your thoughts are on that. All right, so the quote at the tippity top of tonight's episode is that a man should be led and lead through his reverent fear of God and his moral conviction, and not be swayed by the emotions of his woman. Or for, the emotions, because sometimes, right, men can be swayed to get the, certain emotion, certain attention towards him. So let me know what your thoughts, both men and women who are on here in the show. Let me know what your thoughts are. First of all, do you agree with it? No, Sharla, that's hogwash. No. Let me know. If you do think it is truthful and you think it's definitely pertinent for a man to live by this as he is governing and navigating the space of developing relationships, tell me why, you think it's truthful and why you think it would be an applicable, benefit to developing relationships. And the question for tonight, to kind of follow up with that, is definitely want to hear what the men say in here, and, as well as the women. I guess if you're a man on here, let me know from experience, I guess, if you are navigating, if you are still single. And maybe I've heard some married men even have this issue, but let me know what your thoughts are, both men and women. Do you think that in this modern culture that women are confusing a man's passion and positioning to want to cover her and confusing it with wanting to control her? And for the men in here, I guess, can you answer this question from this perspective of explaining to us, women who are on here, what is the difference between a man covering a woman versus a man trying to control a woman in a relationship, right? Or if some of you are married in here, because that's really where that comes into play, right? Even though I think in building and developing a relationship, even before you get to marriage, that, if you are with a man who believes that his positioning is to protect, provide, and many of the other things that come along with how men view covering their future wife to be, that, of course, the way his behaviorisms will also show that in the beginning before you're married. So let me know. And welcome, Christiana. I don't know if it's your first time to the show, but welcome. Hope you enjoy the episode. So that is the quote, and that is the question of the night. And I already have an answer. Yay! And it is from a man. So let me read it to you guys. Eric says, to have a healthy relationship, a man should be led by God and have a fear for God. Okay, so what I'm getting from his answer is that he agrees with that quote. So let me know. I'm going to pop it on the screen so you guys can see. And he said, if it's not, it is not going to last. Period. Point blank. If it's anything other, it's not going to last, folks. from the man himself, Big E. Thank you, Big E. I appreciate it. Okay, so far I got one person who pretty much agrees with that quote. All right. Um, Ajax says, yes, I agree with it. You have to be led by God because God has to be in the center of it and everything else. You are not, if you are not led by God, it is never going to work. Okay, we got two men so far. I appreciate you guys typing. I so appreciate it. All right, so we have two of the men who say, yeah, all the way. Say it for the people in the back, screaming from the mountaintops. They completely agree with that quote. And I came up with that quote because I recently actually just put out, on my other platforms, whether it's TikTok or IG and some of the other spaces that I occupy on the internet, I'll post little snippets from these long live chats that we have. And I was posting a show that I had done like a couple of shows ago where I was recapping where I had spoken to this woman I used to go on Clubhouse during the pandemic, and anybody who was on Clubhouse during that time, it was you all know how it was when we were all on lockdown. We found ways to connect with each other, thank goodness, through social media and things like that. So it was very popular at that moment. So I used to open my rooms and facilitate conversations like this. And in one of the discussions that we had, it stood out to me so greatly because people are so vulnerable, right? And so there was a woman who came in on my room, and she explained to me that she was divorced, and she explained to me that that basically the reason why she was divorced is because her husband, and this is how she presented it, she was just like, my husband just couldn't understand how much I enjoyed work. And, she was in the area of finances, and she said, I just enjoyed work so much, and he just wanted me to kind of be more domestic, to be at home more with the kids and things like that. And she was like, I tried it, and it was awful. And she said she really felt like if he could just have supported her in what she wanted to do, that maybe possibly that they wouldn't have been divorced. And she wanted to let me know how passionate she was about, work, that she told me a story that she gave birth to one of her children. And basically, after she gave birth, literally somebody from her company called her and wanted to facilitate a meeting. And she was so passionate about her work that she was going to take the call. It was only her mother that persuaded her not to, because she said, you will never get this moment back again. You will never get to, one, just kind of rest and stand in awe of what your body has done, miraculously gone through, as well as the bonding time that you have with your child. And it was interesting because when she came in the room, she came in with such confidence and knowing that if he could have just saw my way, we would have been all right. And in a sense, it kind of felt like she felt like he was kind of trying to control the situation and stifle her, rather than seeing it as him focusing on what's essential. And so I remember telling her in that moment that, I understand what you're saying, and I definitely can tell you're passionate about it, because I don't know too many women that I've met who've gone through childbirth and want to hop on a business call after that. So I definitely can see your passion. However, to that company, you are expendable. To that corporation, I don't care how great, how valuable you are, how much you add value, how much bank you bring into their bank accounts, you're expendable to them, and you're more expendable to them than you are to your family. If you were to leave the face of the earth, the impact that it would have with on your children, the impact that it would have on your husband has way more of a greater, effect and degree than it would for your corporation that you work for. They would find someone to replace you in a heartbeat. And I think when I said that to her, it shifted her mind a little bit because I remember the awkward silence that was in the room after I said that statement. Because I think a lot of us in the room knew that was true, and that it probably wasn't a perspective that she really had ever embraced or took in. So now it's like, okay, well, wow, maybe he wasn't trying to control me. Maybe he was kind of trying to direct my focus in the right way. And then maybe I interpreted it as that, and of course I didn't know how, if she still worked for this company, right? Because if she doesn't, then that makes that statement even hit in a different way. And so that's why I wanted to bring up this topic of discussion for you guys tonight to let me know what your thoughts are. So I'm going to read some more things. Hey, hello, Queen. Charlene saying hi. She said, oh, yeah, she said, people tell me that all the time. She said, you favor Kerry Washington. Anyone tell you that? Most definitely. Yes. I thank you. Thank you for that. I've embraced it now. I used to I did not want to embrace it before, because I used to be in acting. I still love acting, and maybe one day we'll go back to it, but I would go on auditions, and that's the first thing that they would say. And sometimes it would work for me, and other times it wouldn't, But either way, I still felt slighted because I didn't know whether the people were wanting to choose me because of my talent and my skill, or whether it's like, okay, she looks like Kerry Washington. But anyway, thank you. I appreciate it. She's brilliant and she's beautiful. So I take it as a compliment now. Eric says, nowadays, there are so many relationships that don't put God first. They don't get to know each other. People want to rush into a relationship. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. And I think now currently, like that old snippet made me think about it, because a gentleman under the snippet that I put because in one of the snippets, I actually was talking about, I forget the football player's name, but he did a commencement speech. I think he's a kicker for the Chiefs, but I can't remember his name right now. Oh my goodness. I think Harrison Buckner. Okay, I remember now. And we were doing a conversation. We were talking about his recent commencement speech that he gave to women at, I think it was Benedict or Benedictine College. But anyway, he basically went viral because he was telling the women at the commencement speech that, I'm congratulating them for, their due diligence to get their degrees. And I'm sure many of you are inspired and motivated to go out into your profession, but I'm sure many of you are also excited about the families that you will create, right? And motherhood. And he basically said, to basically put the place of being a mother and a wife in its rightful position, rather than it look like a demeaning kind of position in society, and how rightfully important it is, not only to the family, but also, right, to society. And of course, he got a lot of backlash because of current day modern mentality. I would definitely say the feminists most definitely came out for his neck when he made that statement. And I was on my snippet. I had repeated some of the things that he said, and he said that he felt like women have been sold so much diabolical lies as far as what they should sacrifice, that they should sacrifice their motherhood and being a wife for their careers, and how he has seen how it has not really been to their benefit. But under that snippet, there was a man who said, well, so have men, right? Men have been sold diabolical lies as well, and it has never gone well for us in trying to please women. That's what he said. It will never go well for a man who is trying to please a woman. And I was like, wow, okay. I agreed with him with the statement. And when I responded to him, that's when I came up with that quote. I said, I agree with you. And I have learned through demonstration of my husband that a man must be led by God, by his reverent fear for God, and by his moral conviction, because wanting to please a woman will never hold weight. As much as you love your wife, as much as you love the woman you're with, it is not going to hold weight when a man is faced with certain decisions that he has to make in life, whether they are tempting things that come to him. It is his reverent fear of God, and it is his moral conviction, how dedicated to his own moral standards and his ethics, and how he wants to really truly live. That holds more weight, and you want that because, as I've explained to many of my clients and many of the women that I talk to, as well as men, that you want that person to show you that this is their moral code and this is their moral conviction and this is what they stand for beyond, how they feel about you. Because as I'm sure everyone in here has probably either experienced or continuing to go through, that relationships go through seasons and changes. And oftentimes during those seasons, you don't always like each other. You know what I mean? You still love each other, but you might not always like each other, meaning that the season, the change that you're going through, maybe you just don't know the transition and you haven't landed where you guys are going to land. And so it's uncomfortable and you don't look at each other the same. And so in moments like that, you don't want that person and the whole weight to be, okay, it's because I love this person, or it's because I like this person, or it's because this person is always like this, that's what's going to hold me in a time where the world, the devil, whatever you want to call my own vices, whatever you want to call it, brings something to me that challenges my moral standard, my ethics. I have to have something higher than that to anchor me in, to be able to stay grounded. So I always say, so that's how I responded to him. But I think it's definitely pertinent with these times, especially when the political climate right now, right, of a lot of people who are pro-choice and thinking about government stripping away women's choice and rights and things like that. And it's very hard for people to detach what's going on in the political climate and in our culture as a whole, and not let it penetrate your personal household, right? That's how, when you look at feminism, that's what it did, right? You're talking about something that was supposed to be more of, right, culture and profession and things like that. That mentality literally seeped into the household and broke up a lot of families, right? So when you're talking about all of that, it's very easy to get confused. And that's why I asked the question to the men and the women in the room: do you think that in modern day culture that women are confusing a man's passion and his positioning to want to cover her? Cover means to, right, provide protection, provide provision. In layman's terms, we could definitely dive deeper, but I will start there. Are the women of today confusing that with mistaking it for the man trying to control her, right? So that's the question for tonight for anyone new coming in, and anyone who missed the quote at the top of the podcast. The quote for tonight is that a man should be led and lead through his reverent fear for God and his moral conviction, and not be swayed by the emotions to please a woman. So, yeah. Let me read some more things that have been written. Ajax says, sometimes also people can get with the right person, but at the wrong time. I've heard that before. It's on God's time because his time is always perfect and on point. Now for the men in here, again, if you can articulate, I appreciate all you've written already. And I know I'm asking for more. Can you, especially if there's young women on here who want to understand, right? Because covering is kind of definitely a term that you would hear if you are acclimated to the church, right? It's definitely biblical, fundamental principle in that. But if you can speak to someone and articulate it in layman terms, someone who might have never stepped foot in the church. What does that mean? And how could they know? Like if you had a daughter and you were sitting down with her and you wanted to explain, to let her know, this is how you can decipher the difference between this. Of a man who is trying to learn, trying to train, trying to be, so that he can cover you in the relationship. And if it's necessary, right? I remember I was just seeing a snippet, some kind of political, you have the political analysts that come on after, whether it's Donald Trump or Kamala has made a speech, and then they come to kind of like critique it. And one of the shows I was watching had a little snippet of, I guess, one speech that Donald Trump did where he said, I'll be your protector to the women and that you won't even think about abortion. Lord, I don't know what he was. That's just my own. I was like, Lord, down. Or maybe that's not. I know he's trying to win over women right now, but I don't think it went over well in the way that he articulated it. But that's just my own little personal opinion. Nonetheless, the political analyst, who was a woman that was speaking, she automatically started with, well, I'm a woman and I don't need protection. That's like an outright, right? Like, I'm a woman and I don't need protection, in trying to. She definitely was not for Trump, and definitely started with that statement to pick apart what he said. So with that being said, if you had a daughter, how would you explain it to her, the difference? How can she know the difference between a man who is trying to cover her versus a man who is trying to control her? And I have a scenario to present to you guys that we can kind of wrap this conversation in. So I've heard from a lot of men who are on tonight, which I appreciate, who so far unanimously, all the men have said they 100% agree with that quote, and that honestly the relationship will not work any other way. Any women on here, what are your thoughts about it? When you hear it, does it rub you the wrong way? Yeah, let me know what your thoughts are on it. And if you are also a woman in here who, if you had any experiences where you can see the difference, where, okay, I've had a relationship. If you're a woman in here and you're saying, I've had a relationship where the man was trying to control me and this is what it looks like, would love for you to offer that for any young woman who's listening so that she can see the signs, learn from each other, right? As well as if you are a woman who has either had a relationship or is currently in a relationship or is married, who can tell us the distinctive difference, that no, this is how a man shows up when he wants to cover you. And it's important for you to know the difference, that it looks like this. So I would love to hear from everyone from those two, angles. So again, anyone new coming in, which I appreciate if you're new, welcome, welcome, welcome. If you heard anything you like so far, definitely subscribe to my Forever Friends Academy channel. Like, comment, spread the video so that the content can be shared. We are talking about, in modern day culture, are women confusing the passion or the positioning for a man wanting to cover her and confusing it with him wanting to control her? And if men are in the building, please tell us the difference between a man who wants to cover his woman, future wife-to-be, wife, right, versus him controlling. What's the distinctive difference? What are you telling your imaginary daughter who wants to know because she is on the dating scene, right, and wants to be aware? So that, one, if she has a great godly man who does want to cover her, that she won't, right, what's the word, maybe disregard the opportunity or miss out on the opportunity to grow with him because she's going to mistake it for controlling. Or if it's on the other end, to make sure that she doesn't fall into a person who does want to control her. What are you telling them? And women, if you have had any experience on any of those spectrums, definitely feel you don't have to make it personal. You can just say it in general to share to the people who are listening. All right, so I have an answer. So E says, and let me put it to broadcast so you guys can see. First, you must know yourself and love yourself. Great advice. Don't just listen to the words, but also go by their actions. For sure. All right. So, yeah, first you must know yourself and love yourself. Don't just listen to the words, but also go by their actions. Yeah. I would say that's definitely a good start, right? And great advice. And again, I was just, thinking about the woman who came into my room because when she presented the idea of her husband wanting her to be more family focused rather than career, just locked in on career, there's a part of her that looked at that as him trying to stifle and control a part of her that she just wanted to blossom. She did not see how that could be breaking her family. And I think all of us, I definitely believe that everybody here is sent with a purpose to serve with their gifts, their skills, their talents in some type of capacity. And in no way am I just saying that women are just meant to be mothers and wives, just like, men aren't just meant to be fathers, and husbands. However, I do believe that when we build, that there is a proper way to build things in life, or there are things, let me say it like this, maybe it'll go over a little better. Let me say a proper way to build things. I would say that there are certain central things in life that must be nourished because it is a need, and it is as they would say, a bedrock for any type of society. And because family is a bedrock to the strength of any nation, that we would want to submit to the truth that it needs to be a priority, because I don't think any of us, especially in this modern day culture, especially in America, where we have the luxury to focus on mental health and how mental health or the lack thereof affects not only the individual and how they navigate through society, but also we're seeing it, right, on how whether it's school shootings or whether it's just people hurting other people and passing down traumas, all that starts and can be rooted back oftentimes a lot to what was going on in the most small nuclear, family unit, and maybe not so, maybe not nuclear, right? Maybe the brokenness of the family and how it has affected or caused a ripple effect. So in that scenario, if let's say that woman spoke to friends and they were like, oh, he's just trying to control you, you should do what you have to do, focus on your work and keep it moving, and not regard that what he's saying is that you are so focused on this that you are not nurturing, you are not putting the family first. And I put under that post that, never forsake or sacrifice, investing your time and energy in a profession to forsake and sacrifice the family unit that you've created, and to create a broken household from that. One is, it's not worth it. It's not. So in what we're, because I say this as someone, I'm not just a person. I homeschool my kids. I'm very much into their life, but I also do other things, right? I work in the home and outside the home. I'm on here with you guys. It's a part of what I do and my coaching. So I'm not saying this as a woman who is just a homemaker, right? So I'm not saying that women should not pursue their passions and skill sets and things like that. However, but we don't want to do that forsaking, not looking or not putting the fundamental things that are essential to life in the rightful places where they belong. And I've never, for me, it's never thwarted my progression. My family, my husband, they fuel what I do. They motivate and inspire me to do more, to be more, and improve and better myself in ways not only to be better for them in our domestic economy of our household, but also to show up better for the other people that I serve, who I might come across. Unfortunately, we've had messages that say when you have a family, especially for women, because of the domestic load of the duties that we carry, that it's going to drain the heck out of you. You're going to be exhausted and you're not going to be able to do anything else, right? And oftentimes when I coach couples, definitely husbands and wives, we always kind of dig into that, because there are a lot of scenarios where women come in and they say that I'm exhausted, he's not helping me enough, and things like that. And when we kind of peel back the layers and peel back the onion, I ask them, what is the system that you have set up in your household? And they give it to me, and I am amazed at some of them, because they have these meticulous, beautiful systems that are all catered to making sure that the needs of the child or the children that they have are met meticulously. However, what is missing is that there is no system, there is no pattern of habit and behaviorisms where the husband and wife are nourishing and feeding each other and pulling strength from each other and energizing each other. So then, I don't have the energy to do it, because the system that's supposed to be created is that we come first. They came after us. We come first, we nourish that, and they get the overflow of the love, of the commitment, of the discipline, of the consistency that we have been dedicated and vowing to each other. They get the benefit, they get the reward, they're the beneficiaries, right? But we forget that sometimes, and even that is us putting things out of order. I say it all the time on this podcast, that balance is created through prioritization. I always remember the scripture in the Bible, Matthew 6:33, where it says, "Seek ye the kingdom of heaven first, and all things shall be added unto you." It is, what is priority? What do I need to do first? Because when I do what's priority and when I do what is first, then it will have a rippling effect on everything else that has to come thereafter. But when I take it out of order, then it becomes very chaotic. And so I think it applies to the conversation. So, hey, Imagine Van Gogh, and it's Dream. How are you? More men in the building. I'm definitely going to say the quote, because I definitely want to hear your thoughts on it. And I'm still waiting for women. I don't know, maybe are the women mad at me tonight? Let me know. Let me know. I'm used to it. In no way is this is actually, even though it might not seem like it, it is to help that husband and that man in your life to love you greatly and better. I think oftentimes when I speak to women, sometimes it's like, I just want that person to love me and extend that love and show that love, and I get it, because I'm a woman too, and I want that as well. But when I tell them that you can't teach him how to love you, but greater than God, greater than his moral conviction, it's too much weight for you to hold. It's too much weight for one person to hold. And like I said, we go through ebbs and flows, and especially as a woman, right? If you're a woman, right? Not just monthly, you know what I mean? And I don't mean that in a very facetious way, right? Because, and I'm a woman who, I don't really go through that many changes on a monthly. Like, it doesn't change my mental state and my mood in that way, thankfully. But nonetheless, we go through so many different changes in life because of what's the word I'm looking for? The beautiful position that we have in life, which is to be able to, for not every woman can biologically do this, but if you are able and capable to, right, the things that we have to, that are put in place to support our ability to hold and bring children into the world, there's so many processes that we have to go through as women. Oh my goodness, not just like puberty and what comes along with that, but then the different changes we go through when we then choose, if we do choose to have children or have a child, that's a change. And then menopause, like all of these things that are like biochemical, chemical changes, hormonal changes in our body. And then we have to deal with that, as well as whatever other external things, right, in life and changes that we have to go through. So it would be too much of a weight to put on us to feel like what he should be led by or how he should live is to be swayed by the emotions or the feelings that you're going through. I think you want an individual and a man or someone who you could possibly think could be a husband to you to be able to go through the process of reaching for something that is higher than himself, to keep him anchored so that he can filter his own emotions, right? Along with that quote should be not swayed by his own emotions or hers, right? Because that's also a thing, right? So you want that person to say, okay, I need something higher than me to anchor myself in, so that when these winds, these storms start coming in life, I have something that I can really stay true to and stand in and stay grounded, right? So definitely let me know what your thoughts are. Definitely, again, I'm waiting for some more of the men to tell me. If you have a daughter and you're sitting down with her, because there's Emily's in here. She's a young girl who's on, navigating the whole process of relationships. What would you tell that young woman? How can she identify and see the difference between a man who is trying to cover her versus a man who's trying to control her? And also, if you can let us know in this way, right, so that she doesn't miss out on someone who's genuinely trying to cover her, offer her protection, offer her provision in many different, right, aspects of her life. What is a way, I guess, a disposition that she can have towards that man or that individual, so that she's receptive of it and not rejecting it, mistaking it as being controlled or, by him. Truth and Rhyme, how are you? That is, I don't know when you came in, but that's what we're talking about tonight. Are modern women, and I hate saying that term, just in modern culture, are women mistaking men who have a passion to cover them, mistaking it from that person or that man trying to control them, and we're talking about the distinction between the two. I'm going to read some of the things that Ajax has put in the comments, and then I'm going to throw out the scenario for you guys. Maybe that can help us extract some more principles and understanding about this conversation tonight. Ajax says, I understand that some men, and let me put on because it's long, so I want to make sure that you guys can read it too. Ajax says, I understand that some men want their women to be covered, but you have to be careful with what you say and how you say it. Because even though some men don't see it as a problem, the women will, and some men have to understand that you cannot control a woman because she can make her own choices and decisions. So, that is what Antoine says. I'll read it again. I understand that some men want their women to be covered. And I don't know, covered, I don't mean like covered in clothes, even though I'm sure. sure. I'm sure men want their women to be, not looking like not looking like you want to be out here on these streets. But I don't mean covered in clothing. I mean covered, as I said in the beginning, like offering protection and provision. And that just doesn't mean provision like financially, right? Men provide, ideally should provide, right? Investing time and energy in her emotional well-being, right? Spiritual capacity, aiding that, mental, capacity as well. So in all those areas, I don't know if that's what you mean, Antoine, just like covered in clothes, or you just mean like in total, like as far as like the guidance, direction he will give her, if you mean it in that way, that he understands some men want their women to be covered, but you have to be careful with what you say and how you say it, because even though some men don't see it as a problem, the women will, and some men have to understand that you cannot control a woman because she can make her own choices and decisions. Very well said. All right, so that is Antoine's piece. Oh, he meant in clothes. That's what I felt like. That's what you meant. As I was reading, I was like, I think Antoine is thinking I'm saying cover up, like put some clothes on, girl. But yeah, that's a whole nother topic, right? That's a whole nother topic. Ooh, that's a whole nother topic. Yeah. Okay, I'm glad you you let me know I was on the right track. All right, so I'm gonna give you guys a scenario. Definitely, if you are pondering on your thoughts, whether you are a man or a woman, in here, definitely I will take a moment to read whatever you take the time out to write. But I'll put out the scenario and then I'll check back in the comments to see what your thoughts on the quote, as well as my question for tonight. So the scenario is we have a married couple. They have been married for, let's give them 5 years. So they're new in the thing, right? They're married, and the wife wants to be a journalist, right? And so when they got married, they're young. So let's make them, she was basically still even in college as they got married. So let's say she is in her basically, let's make her last year of college. She had to do an extra year because they did get married. Let's put it like that. Most of the times you can do college if you're going to a 4-year school, ideally in 4 years straight. Many of us know sometimes it takes a little longer. But let's just say she's like in her 5th year, but it is her last year in college. So she was going through her, learning process as they got married. He, however, was already graduated. He was already about maybe like 2 years already into his profession. And let's make him a professor. He's an adjunct professor, which means that he's not like full-blown professor yet. Maybe he's still working. Let's make him still work on his PhD to become a full-throttle professor. So anyhow, let's put her into journalism, and she wants to be a journalist. And she is talking to her therapist, and she is explaining to her therapist that she is having an issue with her husband because she feels like he is trying to control her. And the therapist asks her, like, okay, well, what makes you feel like he's trying to control you? Can you give me some examples? And so she gives her an example of the fact that when she speaks to him, she finds that he is correcting oftentimes her speech. And what she means by that, correcting her speech, is that if she's not saying a word correctly, like maybe not pronouncing a word correctly, or maybe in the way that the phrasing that she's using is inaccurate, he tells her. He doesn't do it in an abrupt way or in an unkind way, but he does, I don't want to say interrupt her, but he does correct her, and say, well, what you said, that word, this is what it really means, And so she is telling her therapist that, I just want to feel relaxed with him. I don't want to feel like I am in school where I have to care about that and it matters. Like if I'm doing a debate or if I'm in one of my communication classes where my professor's correcting me and telling me, how I should articulate this, that, and the third. And it's making me feel invulnerable with him because I don't feel like I have the space to kind of just unwind and relax and not necessarily care about what it is that I'm necessarily trying to say, or I just want to articulate it even if it's not in the most accurate way. And she says that basically when her therapist asks her, well, have you expressed this to your husband? She says, yes, I have. And the thing that he tells me is that, I am only doing it for your best interest and your betterment. And I'm only doing it because practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes permanent. So I know that you want to kind of unwind with me here and, put all of the things that you've been learning out the door, to just say what you need to say. But I do understand that it's very hard to kind of switch up and say, I'm going to do it and I'm going to articulate this rightly when I'm on the spot in school. And then when you're here with me, just talk any old kind of way just because you should just get me and I should just understand you. And so that's what he has said to me about it. And for him to say that, I feel like he's just not understanding. And he's also, when I'm doing, it's made me so kind of resistant from him because it feels like control that when I now do have like homework or exercises that I have to do, he, even the tips and the pointers that he gives me, like he tells me tips to say certain speeches or things that I've written, to go on the mic and say them so that I can hear myself back. And all of those things now, I'm not really that receptive of it because of that. So I really feel like he should just understand where I'm coming from and that I can be able to unwind and he does not need to be my teacher because he's my husband. He's not my teacher. And that's how I feel, but he feels like what he's telling me is only for my best interest and my better development, and that, it's not just for now, it's also who you want to be and the audiences and the people that you're going to be in front of. Unfortunately, they are going to judge you by how you articulate yourself or the lack thereof of your capacity and your ability to be able to translate the message in an accurate, in an articulate way. And I think he feels, as a husband, I'm the best person that you should be able to express that to, because of that I'm here to support you. So that is the situation. You are her therapist. You are her coach. What are your thoughts? Do you feel like what he's doing is control? Or do you feel like it's under what we're talking about tonight, that he's covering her, that maybe it's a blind spot that she doesn't see, and even though it's annoying to her and causing her frustration, that it's more something that she should accept and receive, maybe as a challenge? Or do you think he is just like, that she's right, like, you are not my teacher. You are not professor. You are my husband. And as my husband, I just want to have a woosah moment with you and say it like any way, and you be able to receive what I'm saying, and believe in my capacity to kind of like switch code, that I can do this here with you, and when I'm in the classroom, turn it on and do it there. Yeah. What are your thoughts, people? All right. I have some people who are writing in. Okay. Love it, love it, love it. Let me put it on because I want to make sure you guys can see. All right. Ajax says, I understand what she is saying. I agree with her because you want to be with your husband, not a professor, because a husband and a professor are two different things. You shouldn't feel that you are in school with a professor when you are at home. When you are at home, you want to unwind, like she said, and relax. Okay, so I've got one person so far who is with the wife in this scenario. So sounds like if Antoine Ajax was her professor, not her professor, her therapist, that she would say, maybe possibly, well, I don't want to put words in his mouth. I won't go there. I'm going a step ahead, so I don't want to do that. Let me double back. Let me just express the answer that he gave, which is that he agrees with her. And now, Antoine, if you wish to, then if that's the case, what is the guidance that you give her? What do you, as her therapist, her coach, etc., tell her to do in this matter? He says, you may not take it a certain way, but the other person will. Okay, so far, I have someone who agrees with the wife in this. I just want to go home. I just want to relax. I don't want to be monitored by you. And would you perceive that, Ajax, as controlling, though? Or just, I don't know, an annoying action? Would you perceive that as controlling? Is she internalizing it correctly, the way that she's feeling? Is a control. And I wanted to do like an example like this that was not so outright, right? Because I think I was thinking about, and I can't really talk too much about it because I haven't seen the full snippet, but a lot of people are talking about, and I always mess up which sister. So if someone who is on here who knows which one is the one who got divorced, I always mess it up between Tia and Tamara, but I think it's Tia, right? Is the sister, the twin sisters, actors, and I believe one of them has a new show now. And I think it's Tia. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. But I believe she was the one that was married to Corey Hardrick, right? And anyway, there is a video that a lot of people are talking about now where she's crying and just talking about, of course, I mean, if you've ever talked to any friend, met anyone who has went through divorce, it is not fun. It is just heart-wrenching. It's a heart-wrenching process to go through, and I don't care how amicable the people are or intend to be when you go through it. It's not something that anybody necessarily wants to sign up for. So in the snippet, she is, crying and vulnerably expressing what she's going through in the process. But a lot of people are putting out videos saying that she's regretting, getting divorced from her husband, because in the snippet, she was basically saying that while she was in the marriage, she felt stifled, kind of like what we were talking about early on in our conversation. She felt stifled and that she didn't realize she had a choice in the marriage and things like that. So there are different discussions going on. A lot of people are thinking, one, that in the way she's expressing herself, her husband was controlling and that's why she divorced. I can't say that that's what she said in that snippet. And then others are taking another route of saying she's regretting it because it doesn't sound like he was really being controlling. It sounds like he was actually just trying to be a husband and present certain things to her that maybe she did not want to embrace. So hence why I wanted to bring up a kind of a situation where it wasn't like outright like toxic, outlandish, outright control, right? But a situation where it's like, okay, you can kind of see both perspectives and point of views, and can we step back or step out of both their perspectives to kind of see maybe the consistency of truth that's really going on in the scenario. So let me just make sure, because I oftentimes realize that sometimes I'm missing some of the comments on Facebook. So I just want to make sure that I did not miss one as I went. Okay. Nope, I didn't. Okay. Just want to make sure. Let me read some of the statements. I think Jack answered my question, I think. So he says, you shouldn't feel that you are in school with a professor when you are at home. When you are at home, you want to unwind, like she said, and relax, because you go to school to see professors, not the other way around. That's also why I said earlier, you have to be careful with what you say and how you say it, because if you say something to someone, you may not take it a certain way, but the other person will. What I would say, it is controlling in a way, okay, because he is always correcting her, but it's in a way like he's insulting, being from the outside looking in. He says he's only trying to help her, but he doesn't understand her side. He hears her, but is not listening. It's like it goes in one ear and out and not the other. When he goes home to her at the end of the day, he's still in professor mode, not in husband mode. And he has to separate the two, because you don't want to be with a professor when you are home. When you're at home, you don't want to feel like you are in school, okay? Especially when you are in school for a long amount of time. Okay, so it's so interesting. He was like, he's insulting her. I'm like, where you get that from, Jack? I never, I didn't even say what, and matter of fact, I did say in the scenario that he's not doing it. She said actually he's not doing it in a rude way. It's just annoying to her because she doesn't want to feel like her husband is the professor. She just wants to feel like her husband is the husband. So he's not doing it in a rude way, and he is doing it oftentimes, but not in a rude way to her. So, but I thank you for all that you, wrote, in stating what you stated. I appreciate it. Okay, so he's like, no, don't be a professor, just be a husband. And if I'm in school, I don't want to come home to you correcting me. Ooh, okay. Okay, Timeless Emily says exactly. So I think she is saying exactly to Antoine. So I think she also agrees with Antoine. So far I have two that agree with the woman in this scenario. And I guess they both agree it's controlling, because I think he said he felt like it was controlling because he's insulting her, but he's not insulting her when he's correcting her. He's just correcting her. But I can see from her perspective how she would feel insulted, because I think when we're adults, right? I often say on this podcast that one of the most challenging things that will occur to individuals in a relationship is to say that you are aligning with this person, and I don't know what age you are when you're aligning with them. I think the older you are, the more challenging it is for someone to come in your space and see blind spots that you don't, or give you direction, or give you correction if you've been adulting, quote unquote, for a certain period of time. It's like, who corrects me now? once I'm an adult and, I don't have to answer to my mama, I don't have to answer to my daddy, who corrects me now? Who holds me accountable? Because I'm an adult and I can make my own choices and I can do what I want. But when we enter into a relationship, well, that person is there to hold you accountable. That person is there to sharpen you as an individual. And sometimes their methodology, the things that they present to you might be something that you, in all of your, I don't know how old you are, 23 years, your 33 years, your 43 years, your 63 years, has been something that you have been blind to, has been something that you feel like it does not matter. And now this person is coming to you and telling you it does matter. And this is why it matters. So the first thing is, who are you talking to? Like, what are you telling me? Like, I've been on this earth for how many years, and here you come. If you do that, though, you reject the very reason why that person is brought into your life. The reason why 2 is better than 1 is because 4 eyes, right, are better than 1 to look out, right? One person can sleep while the other person looks out for trouble, right? 4 arms are better to lift things and carry and support, right? So we are very willing to be and have open arms when it is the things that they do and they aid and they support and they appease our emotions and things that we think and we have already verified and confirmed within ourselves is necessary for us to have. But oh boy, do not let it be an area that we did not perceive, that we needed any fine tuning in, that we needed any correction or any guidance. Because I did not bring you into my life for you to correct or guide or direct me. I can do that myself. Well, why am I here if you can do it all by yourself? Is it just to appease your emotions? Is it just to appease you physically? Because for that, you can do other things. You know what I mean? Like, that's not what a real relationship that lasts a long time. You're talking about a lifetime. Is a lot more. So I definitely think one of the most challenging things to do is understanding that that person comes in your space to do that, and to not be in a defensive mode when somebody brings something to you that is factual, that is truthful and honest, just because you don't like what they said or you never knew that about yourself. Well, that was the whole point of why this individual was brought into your life. That's the whole reason why we get coaches, therapists, professors, right? And I get it, in the perspective of what Antoine is saying. It's like, when I go home, I just want to... But actually, the people who are in your household and your family, because prayerfully, they are a group of your inner circle that wants the best for you, that has your best interest in mind, that they are going to be the ones that will tell you the truth when nobody else wants to, or will tell you something because they know that this thing is going to improve your well-being, So I don't know. Think of, oh my goodness, I got Frank in the building. I did not know. Hey, Frank, how are you? I don't even know if he's still here. Emily says, don't be a professor at home, but don't blindly affirm all of your wife's decisions. Okay. I like Emily's answer. I'm going to put that on the broadcast. I like that answer. So that's what Emily's telling them as their coach. Let me put that up for you guys to see. She says, don't be a professor at home, but don't blindly affirm all of your wife's decisions as well. Okay. Imagine Van Gogh says, perhaps it's how it's said as opposed to what is said. Okay, so in the scenario, again, she has literally told her therapist that he's not saying it in a rude or offensive way. It's just the fact that she feels like if he's correcting a part of her speech, that the way that she's internalizing it and interpreting it is that she can no longer be vulnerable with him to say what she needs to say. So he's not saying it in a rude way. And again, for those of you who guys might have just came in, he's saying that he's doing this because he knows she wants to go into journalism and that he knows what she's been working on. And so he is basically fortifying or affirming what she's doing out in her classrooms when she's at home with him. But for her, it's completely just she's taken aback by it, and so much that she doesn't really even want to receive the other advice that he's given her that would help to fine tune, right, her skills in this. And for him as her husband, he believes like, I'm doing this and I'm correcting you here, but it's because when you go out in that space, the space that you are, the media and the world that you're entering, they're going to be a lot more critical. They are going to be a lot more judgmental. They are going to have a lot more, hurtful things to say about whether they feel like you are up to par for the positioning, or the expertise that you say to be in the profession that you're in. So I'm just here trying to help in that fine tuning. You can definitely tell me things, because you're my wife, but I don't want you to be reject when I present things that is just to improve you wholeheartedly, especially if I'm not saying it in a rude or offensive way. It's just annoying to you. It's just annoying to you. I'm wondering if you guys would think of this differently if it was put in this context and the shoe was on maybe the other foot. And I hate this word, or I don't say hate because hate is strong, but I just like this where if a woman wants her husband, a wife wants her husband to do something, and she might say it over and over and over again. And of course, a lot of men have termed this as nagging, right? That's the term that I said I hate, but I had to retract and say I dislike the term. If that would be different, right? Where she's like explaining to him something that she wanted to get done. He didn't do it, so she felt like she had to say it over and over and over again. Would that be on the same thing? And would you look at it differently than what the man is doing in this situation? I'm so curious. Imagine Van Gogh says, so what better place for the correction or advice to come than at home? Good question. As opposed to being receiving said criticism in front of other people where you might feel even more self-conscious. I love that statement so much that I'm adding it to the broadcast because I think you are right on. You hit it right on the nail. I think you hit the whole scenario on the head, on the head. And I agree with you. That was my mind frame when I was thinking about this scenario and what I would say if it was her coming to me as a coach. That very question that he just posed, which is, so what better place for the correction or the advice to come from than at home? And you know what's so interesting about this conversation right here, right? Going back to the example that I gave you all in the beginning about the woman who came in my room and was explaining to me that she was divorced, and the reason why she was divorced because she was so passionate about her job and her workplace, and her husband just couldn't understand, and him feeling like he's stifling her because he's telling her that you need to be more family focused. Then you are so entrenched with your work that you're not paying attention to our family. And the interesting part about the question, the beautiful question that Imagine Van Gogh just wrote, or statement that he said, is that we will have no problem when the correction is coming from the professor, when the correction is coming from our, right, the people who are our managers, supervisors at work, because maybe the reward, right, is we can calculate it, right? If I do this, I get paid for you to correct me, right? I get paid for you to direct me and counsel me. At the end of the day, if I get the correction from you as a professor, I got a degree, as long as I do what I need to do. Whereas at home, right, if she's if she's a wife and she's incorrect, what? Right? I can't quantify that. Like, what reward? What reward is in this? Other than you telling me what I don't want to hear right now, right? So you're correcting me and you're telling me to do something that has no immediate reward in sight that I can see. You're just telling me to improve. You're doing it just to help me improve myself because you care about me. Ugh. I'm appalled. No, for real, folks, right? This is how messed up. This is how messed up the system of the world that we're in right now, right? That's the difference between getting what Imagine Van Gogh said, correction, advice, counsel, within a household with people who have your best interest in mind, who really just want to see you improve and you strive in whatever direction you take it in, just so you can be the better you. It's not because they getting paid to tell you this is their position. It's not because, and that's the challenging part of it, right? For you to be receptive of it, even though your immediate reward or the carrot on the stick is not so evident, right? And physically tangible in that way. But, that's really what it is. So I love that you said that. Brilliant, brilliant statement, brilliant comment. I think it's right. It's true. I'll say it again. Let me read that statement again because I think it's such a truthful statement. So what better place for the correction or advice to come than at home, as opposed to being receiving said criticism in front of other people where you might feel even more self-conscious. Very true. I will give you guys a personal example for me where this has taken place in my household. As you guys know, outside, when I'm not coaching, I'm performing and I'm singing, right? And so I had to, in my own personal journey as becoming a singer, I had stage fright at a very young age, at age 9. Stopped singing because of the stage fright, started going back into singing when I turned 14 as a teenager, and it was not even by my voluntary will. It was because my music teacher at that time saw the potential in me, even though I said I do not want to sing because I was so fearful. I was singing off key. I just thought, I don't got it. It's just not me. He said, no, you're fearful. I can see it, and I can hear your voice beyond the fear. And you need to overcome the fear, right? Not just because of your voice, me thinking just my singing voice, right? But not even me seeing further down the line that my voice would not only be used as a songstress to help people in their life, but also that I would need to get over the fear of being in front of audiences so that I can do what I'm doing right now. Right, I literally, in my process of developing my voice, I not only had to get over the fear, but I also, as I'm sure many of you guys have heard if you come on my podcast, I have a lisp tongue. It was a lot worse when I was younger. And I thank God my music teacher helped me with it. And also, that helped me to be able to learn how to articulate things more clearly. And I ended up taking communication studies in college where, right, I would work on that. And I remember through the process, because my husband and I, we know each other since teenagers. So he's seen me go through all of that process of stage fright and going up on stage, falling flat, literally either in voice or just the fear got to me and it just wasn't the best performance. And all throughout the way, he would suggest things that, oh my gosh, I didn't want to do. Whether I didn't want to do it because I was scared and I didn't want. I remember one time he said, I had been practicing my butt off. I'd practiced really, really hard, and I had a bad performance. And I remember coming off the stage, and he's talking to me. And he's like, "What happened? I thought you said you were practicing." At this point, we weren't married, so we weren't, in the same household. And I said, "I was. I really was." He said, "How did you practice?" I said, "Well, I was singing the song over and over again." He was like, "Did you record yourself?" I said, "Record myself?" He said, "Yeah. Did you record yourself singing the song?" And I was like, "No." I didn't record myself. He said, "You didn't practice then. How do you know how you sound outside of your, right? How your voice sounds in your mind is different from how it sounds when it's coming to the audience." So every professional singer, Sharla, knows, this is what he's telling me, that you have to record yourself to know how you sound. Michael Jackson records himself when he's singing, when he's dancing. These are the things you have to do if you want to do this professionally and this is not a hobby for you. It's like, I could have went two ways. I could have been like defensive. I could have said, "Oh, I did practice and maybe I just had an off day and maybe you don't understand." Right? Or I could eat humble pie and say, "You're right. You're right. You're absolutely right. I didn't record it. So no, when you record it, you can see where are you consistent? Are you making mistakes along the way?" And I took that advice and it made me better, even though in the moment was like, I already feel bad because I had a bad performance. Like, do you have to tell me? Do you have to tell me this now? Can you wait till I feel a little better about myself? No, I can't, because I know you are better than what you gave. I know, and I believe in your capacity and have faith in you. So me telling you this now and you having the opportunity to embrace the new advice, the new information that I'm giving you, and you applying it will be best for you, and you will improve. And that's what I'm here, a part of your life, to do, is to help you improve. But I can't do that if you think me guiding you, directing you, correcting you at times is demeaning. That you're not looking at it as, okay, this person is a gift that God has given me to help me see and bring clarity to me when I can't see. Because I can't possibly think, right? We're not perfect. I can't possibly think that I just know it all and that this person, because they're not my quote unquote title teacher, that they should not have the right to say something to me that will improve, whether it's a skill that I have, whether it's something to develop my character, whether it's something that will help the functioning of the household work better. Right? And what I will say, what has helped me in this department, because it's a growth process, right, is, and I don't think I've had anyone answer the question so far about how can you tell the difference between, I think E did earlier on, about loving yourself and paying attention to the man's words and actions. So he did do that. But what I will add to that, just experientially knowing what has occurred in my marriage, is that when Ben has given me counsel, advice, correction, things like that, what comes with it is the truth with love, most definitely. And he also, in his actions, aids the very direction that he feels or he knows that God is endorsing me in. So the way that I can put that in a layman example is that the singing example that I just gave you guys, where he told me and he corrected me that I wasn't practicing the songs right, and gave me a better methodology to guarantee that I can pinpoint my mistakes, that I can guarantee that I can consistently sing the songs and hit all the notes and take it the place where I wanted it to go, is that he's the same man who built a stage in our household so that I can practice the performances. He's the same man, whether I'm doing coaching like this and he says, I'm all for supporting and endorsing what God is doing for you, that he will buy the setup that I need to reach the audience. Right? So he's not only giving the constructive criticism, right, and correction when it's needed, but he's also allowing God to use him to support, and throw his investment and his energy to say, I want to see you. I want to see you succeed at this. Right? So he's covering in totality in all of those areas, right? He's covering not just the mental part of it and telling me the methodology of what's the best way to practice, but now he's also putting physical investment, so that I can have the things that I need to continue to sharpen my craft. Right? That's not a person who's just trying to control the optics or stifle who you are. That's someone who is one to endorse you so that you can display your gifts, your talents, your skills on the platform to your best ability and your best capacity. So for this scenario, I agree with the husband. And I don't think it's controlling. I think that it is, don't get me wrong, I'm sure. It's annoying because, you do want to feel like I'm home. I don't want to. But the truth is that, and this is the reason why I agree with the husband, because of the fundamental principle that he presented to her, that practice doesn't make perfect, practice makes permanent. Right? So that example that I gave to you guys where I was like, I'll practice. I practice song over and over and over and over again. But I practice it without recording the song, so I don't know how I'm truly sounding, right? That's very very in the beginning stages, right, of me trying to become a professional singer. So it was immature. I didn't know, right? You can only do what you know. So he knew better because Ben actually went to college all the way throughout for, right, music and piano and all that. So he had the great advice for me, right? But I could have been like, I don't need this from you. You're not my teacher, right? Like, you're not my vocal coach. What are you telling me this for? You're my husband. You stay in your place. Could you imagine? But this is what is being done, right? Especially in today's culture. This is what is going on, where husbands are presenting guidance, correction, advice. Don't say correction. Forget it. What? I'm not a child. Who correcting me? Okay. Well, if you don't want me to correct you, then you want to fall flat on your face. If you don't want me to correct you, then the world, it's better to take the advice at home in a safe, authentic, genuine environment from someone who loved you, who clearly wanted you in their life so much that they chose to make you their wife. They accepted your choice in them as a husband. It's better to get the advice there as someone who doesn't want anything else from you than to see you and who you are and who God meant you to be shine as bright as possible. So that because it doesn't matter how much you sharpen your tool, right? That the world that you go out there in, there are going to be someone, right? Some people who don't like what you do, who are going to reject you. They're going to be people who troll, will find something to say about you, right? No matter how meticulous you are, no matter how detailed you are, no matter how much you, right, hit the target and the mark right in the center, they will find something to say. But guess what? Because at home, I had someone who cared about me to sharpen who I am, not only in my skill and my talent set, but also in my character, that what you say about me or what you think rolls off me like water. And I will continue to be purpose driven, and I will continue to do right what I'm called here to do and meant to do. And it's okay, right? For me to grow and get better. That's definitely what happened to me as a singer. Definitely was what happened to me in doing, right, whether it's my live podcast or my private clientele and coaching. I got better as I did it. But how do you get better if there isn't correction, if there isn't guidance, if there isn't direction along the way? And you cannot learn in isolation. You have to take in from others so that you can get out of yourself and really be able to look out expansively to see, am I hitting the target? Am I, right, articulating this and that in the best way possible? And you want to be open for that. Hey, Eddie, how are you? Eddie Howafit, how are you, love? Thank you for popping in. Hopefully your beautiful family's doing well. Imagine Van Gogh says, I believe that we often respond to criticism, correction that way, because people rarely, if ever, want to be told that they're wrong. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, that's one of the self-preserving tactic of our egos, and probably one of the first pillars that has to fall to be able to have a healthy relationship, right? A genuine, healthy relationship. We've talked about it on this show extensively. The difference between being kind and being nice is that someone who's nice, they will placate to your emotions. They will placate to your feelings. They are more externally driven. They like to people please more, right? Whereas someone who's kind, they stand for the truth no matter what. They're not afraid to ruffle your feathers to get the message across, because maybe they understand that in this world where we are so used to walking on eggshells and placating to each other's emotions that, mind you, literally are too shifty to anchor anything really in. And I'm not talking about your gut emotions that's attached to a spiritual understanding, right? Or a fundamental truth. That's a different thing. I'm talking about the flighty feelings that come and go, that we're happy one moment, sad the other, angry the next, all the different feelings and emotions that we go through in one day, right? That there are many people that you will encounter in life that will not tell you the truth. One, mostly because maybe they don't have the faith in you to believe that you can actually receive it, or that you'll embrace it, or that you will take it and do anything with it, right? I always tell, a lot of, definitely a lot of my wives, I've definitely said it to men as well, but definitely I will be honest, more so to a lot of my wives or women in the relationship, is that, to the point of a lot of things that Ajax said about, and as well as Imagine Van Gogh, is like not what you say, but how you say it, that sometimes, the way that you say something automatically, the wife or the woman will shut down because like, oh, well, you said that. But it's like, I tell them, if he says it to you, it's because he still believes. Or if maybe you guys can understand it in this way, or maybe not to say you might have understood it already in the way, the example that I gave it to you, but I'm sure you've heard this statement before where it says, okay, if a woman stops talking, right? Or if a woman stops telling you or reminding you about things, it means that she's completely shut down, right? And that the relationship is going to be over very soon. Because the fact that she continues to talk to you and continues to tell you means that she still believes in you. She still has faith in the relationship. But once, right, she stops, that's it. The faith is gone. And once the faith is gone, there's no currency for the relationship, right? So if he's telling you, yeah, you might not, in our differences, as a man, he might say it in a different way. We're a woman, we articulate it differently. Give a moment for the emotions to for the truth to filter the emotions or the feelings that you're having right now, and ask yourself some questions. Does this person have my best interest in mind? Does this person truly, care and love me? And bottom line, is what they're saying true? Is it a fact? Because I don't want to miss the opportunity to embrace a truth that's going to only make me better, which would then ripple into our relationship and make our relationship better, right? So, yeah, I think there aren't many people who, like what Imagine Van Gogh said, will offer the truth to people because, one, yeah, we don't like being wrong. Who wants to be wrong? Like, who wants to make mistakes, even though it's a part of the learning process. I said on, I think, the last podcast or show that I had, that my husband was teaching our oldest daughter how to play the piano, and she's very much like me. When I was young, I wanted to do everything perfect, and she was so scared because she wanted to do it perfect. She didn't want to make any mistakes. She wouldn't even she touched the piano, and he was like, he could feel her fear, and he was like, why are you so scared? She was like, because I don't want to make a mistake, and you play so perfectly. And he literally said to her, like, I play perfectly because I've made more mistakes than you. And I've only made more mistakes from you because I wasn't afraid to try. So, if we're wrong, it's okay. We're wrong. It doesn't mean we're wrong for a moment, wrong for a day. Doesn't mean that you have to stay wrong, But the only way not to stay wrong is to leave some open room for the people in your family, right? And this goes beyond just an intimate marital relationship or an intimate long-term relationship. This is people who are in your inner circle, that hopefully you have people in your inner circle that are serving you, that will tell you the truth, that will be kind to you, people who are anchored in the truth that you can trust. As I say on this podcast all the time, you cannot have trust without truth, right? People get second guess if they can trust people, but that's only because they're not necessarily taking space to learn some of the fundamental truths and embrace those truths when it comes to them, right? No matter who it comes from. If you're okay with that, then you can kind of look back and observe another person, observe what the words that they're saying, the actions that they're doing, and how those words align with certain fundamental truths in life. And you'll know if you can trust that person or not, So, but great conversation, guys. I so appreciate all of you guys, Emily, Imagine Van Gogh, and Ajax, definitely for taking out the time to type and give me your wonderful feedback on the situation. I think all of you had valid, great points in the conversation, and most definitely, I'm sure, definitely Ajax and Emily, the perspectives that you guys offered, I'm sure a lot of people who were listening felt that same way too, because don't get me wrong, no, you definitely do want to feel like you can relax and unwind with your person, all the time. But I think we want to remind ourselves that why these people are brought into our lives, and we understand that the very presence, their very presence, is not only there to just pour and nurture, love, and care for you. A part of that care is not only going to come in the means or the modes or mediums that you are so readily okay to embrace, but it will come in other ways that is necessary, but you might not be used to getting that type of feedback. So I think that's what this situation is, and I think it ties in definitely with the quote for today, as well as the question. Because we don't want to confuse someone being brought into our life to cover us, I want you to think of cover as cover all the bases. Maybe cover means seeing some blind spots that you don't see, help you to develop more in a better way. Look at it in that way versus someone who's trying to control you, who's trying to control you, who is not investing their time, their energy, their faith to endorse the things that God has already started to show you, expose to you, reveal to you. And they're putting their efforts in that direction to help you, So you don't want to block that help because definitely have heard stories, as I told you guys in the beginning, about definitely relationships where that was misconstrued. And then the family, the household, the nuclear household, the unit is broken because of that, because of distorted misinterpretation of the ego, really, right? Wanting to preserve itself, to not let the household function in a system of where we're actually serving each other and helping each other out in the best way. So I appreciate all of you guys. Great conversation tonight. Thank you for everyone popping in, all of the newcomers. I think Charlene was a newcomer. And of course, all of the people who returned, Frank, Ajax, all of you guys. I know I'm missing names, Eddie, Emily. I'm sorry if I missed your name. Truth and Rhyme. Everyone who took some time to come in tonight, I so appreciate you. I will be back on, God willing. I will be back on Thursday evening with another topic for you guys. Again, if you liked anything that you heard and you think content like this needs to be all over, right? Social media and the internet, because it can help. My main goal is to help people be able to navigate one of the greatest, if not the greatest, area of life, which is relationships. There's nothing that we do here that is not built on the building block of relationship. Even the professions that we're in, networking and working together with coworkers, and if you're an entrepreneur and you're managing your business, your customers are your boss, like everything, right, is centered around our relationships. So what I hope to is facilitate conversations and provide fundamental skill sets and tools that you can use to, help build relationships that last a lifetime, and yeah. So I appreciate you. Definitely go to the channel Forever Friends Academy. Subscribe, like, comment, spread the word. Until next time. All right. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything. Excuse me, guys. Okay. I didn't miss any comments. At least I hope. I tried to scan real quick to make sure. But you guys have a good night. And as I always like to say, until next time, always remember to live to love freely. All right. Bye.